Welcome to this edition to ESBR, the Expeditionary School at Black River. We are your hosts.
Pat Pullinen, Expeditionary School board member.
And I'm Gary Blodgett, Expeditionary School at Black River as well. I'm going to act as an interviewer mostly to Pat because I've only been on the board for a while and Pat's been involved with this process for quite a few years. So Pat, give us a little background about the Expeditionary School and how it came to be.
Well, as most people probably are already familiar with, the fact that the members of Mount Holly and Ludlow voted several years ago to close their middle school and high school. So at the same time, maybe it's less known that the boards also voted at that time to allow paying tuition to students to attend any local state-approved school, and there are several of those in the area that our students are attending.
The choice option.
The choice option. And at the same time, it provided a group of local parents, teachers, educators, community members to get together and form their own independent school, which in some ways is an advantage. Gives us an opportunity to provide local schooling for students in our area.
So the Expeditionary School is not a public school or a charter school. Maybe it'd be better if we talked about what it is not.
Well, as you mentioned, it is not a public school, and it is not a charter school. For any of our visitors from out of state, second homeowners, they may be familiar with charter schools in their area, but in the state of Vermont, we currently do not support any charter schools. The fact is that we are not a public school basically means that the money that we put into our budget and that we would be spending on our students is not a budget that's voted on locally. It doesn't impact the local tax dollars. So it's important to know those two key things. So we mentioned we currently are operating as an independent, recognized school in the state of Vermont. The fact that we're recognized really means that we do not receive any of the tuition dollars that follow students. So here locally, if we have students that are attending Green Mountain, Burton, Long Trail School, Woodstock School, Springfield, our students go to those schools and our local tax dollars pay tuition. Students that are attending currently at the independent school do not receive that same privilege of having those tuition dollars follow them. So as a result of that, we basically fund those students philanthropically.
So those students right now are not paying to go to the school?
Currently we have, I think, 2 students that are paying a tuition, but the remainder of the students that are attending, actually they attend philanthropically. There's no dollars that are collected for those students to attend. And of course, that's one of the reasons why we work so hard at our fundraising. We've been able to operate for 2 years in this model, but we are very, very hopeful that we can move towards a state-approved approval.
So state approval, why don't we talk about the state approval process and where we're at that now?
Well, the state approval, as anybody can imagine, working with the state is a long, drawn-out procedure. Sometimes it seems like it's going at a snail's pace. We began the process last summer, completing our application, and we submitted that to the state board agency of education, and they reviewed it, and it took them a while to get back to us, but we did hear back from them the first of the year in January. They responded with, as you know, 3 pages of questions, which was a bit daunting, and we were able to respond back with those 3 pages. And just today, we actually got word that they are going to move on to the next step. The next step is coming to do a site visit, and that site visit's going to be scheduled for the end of March. the 1st of April.
That's so the process is moving along, even though it has taken some time.
It is moving along, and understandably, the state Agency of Education has really been pretty much bogged down with a number of these applications, and they worked through COVID, so it wasn't easy for them. But we're thankful that the process is beginning to move along.
And what will that process, if the school does get approved, which we feel it should, what will that mean?
Well, it means that we'll be able to move forward with expanding our student population. Currently, we keep our enrollment to a limited number so that we can operate off the budget that we're able to raise. And with the approval, we'll be able to expand not only with the students, but we'll be able to grow our faculty and the programs that we offer. Obviously, that's where we want to go, is we're involved in the growth of the school.
And the money then from these students that are currently going here would be able to be, we'd be able to take that in as a school.
They would follow the students that attend. Now, that would be students that are coming here from choice communities. Besides Ludlow and Mount Holly, there are several choice communities in the area. And beyond that, if, say, you're not from a choice community, then you would apply and pay tuition, or perhaps we'd be in the have the ability to offer scholarships for some students to attend, and so those are the possibilities.
So Pat, there are other independent schools in the state of Vermont that some people may recognize, right?
Oh, we're not new to the business. One of the oldest is St. Johnsbury Academy, and of course most people are very familiar with Burton over in Manchester. There's Sharon Academy, Thetford Academy. One of the newer schools, again, people probably familiar with, is Long Trail School in Dorset. And then obviously there's the independent religious parochial schools, Mid-Vermont Christian, MSJ, Rice. But it's certainly not a new concept.
Right. But those schools, the religious schools, as far as I know, don't get the tax dollars.
That happens to be an issue the state's
right now that they're dealing
right now.
That's
so
right,
yes.
they're talking about right now. But
Yeah.
and all those schools, I mean, started off small also.
I remember Long Trail School over in Dorset. They started small, I think with 6 or 8 students. I can remember working as an athletic director when they pretty much celebrated the fact that they could put together a soccer team, which actually was a co-ed soccer team, and it grew. And
They have a good population now.
they do, and it's a school that's flourishing.
Yeah.
So.
I can even remember Burton wasn't as flourishing as it is now, and now it's one of the largest schools in the state.
Yeah.
And that's an independent school.
Yeah.
So Pat, let's now talk about why Expeditionary. Where does that name come from?
Well, the expeditionary learning model grew out of a gentleman by the name of Kurt Hahn. His background was in Outward Bound, and he basically put this model together, which involved students being out, able to explore, get their hands on in the community and in the environment, challenge students, challenge their thinking, their curiosity, and basically as a board and a committee, we got together and researched the expeditionary model and made the choice that we wanted to go in that direction. We felt it was a good fit for a school in Vermont that can take advantage of community like Ludlow and the environment and all of what Vermont has to offer. And in doing so, I think we've made a good choice. It's been exciting so far. Another real key piece is, I think, trying to break out of the 20th century mold of education. Obviously, public schools have done a lot to try and work towards maybe a 21st century mold, but a little more difficult for the public schools. And being an independent school and not having the structure of the state, speaking to us, it gives us an opportunity to be a lot more creative. So it's a great opportunity for us. And again, like I said, I think it's a good fit.
Well, it allows, like you said, Ludlow here, we have so many attributes for the community with the mountain, the lakes, and some of the resources around here they've been able to utilize.
We've formed partnerships, working partnerships within the area. One of our first partnerships was Black River the Black River Innovative Campus down in Springfield. We've also have a partnership with Fletcher Farm Arts and Crafts School. We have a partnership with Castleton State College, which is very exciting as we move forward in the future. And we've been very fortunate to have businesses in the area reach out to us and work with us. Another example is VINS, which has offered us some hands-on science programs.
And Weston Theater too, right?
And the Weston Theater, absolutely.
In fact, I think there's a play coming up later on in the spring, isn't there?
Last year we benefited by having talented Susan Hafner from Weston Playhouse come over and work with our students, and she's returned this year and is working with students. They're actually writing and going to perform their own play, We Are Nature, which is, I believe, going to be in April in the local town hall. We'll be talking more about that in the future, but again, that's another example of the community and people we've had a chance to work with.
That's great. It may not be for every student. Those who are looking for a traditional type of school, traditional grades, brick and mortar, classrooms, sports teams the way they grew up with or their parents grew up with, this may not be the school for them.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned traditional because we are a very non-traditional school. Students, when they attend, they're not going to have bells that ring every day, moving them from classroom to classroom. They get the basic background core studies, which is their math, their science, their English, humanities. But a lot of opportunities the students have is to move independently and to work independently through the course of the day. So it really does have a very different feel and a different look than a traditional school.
And following some of their own interests, too.
Absolutely. They have their own personalized learning programs. Our instruction basically is graded on the proficiency-based grading system. We have our own platform that we use where students log in and track their learning. But they really learn to work independently and take on that responsibility.
Well, Pat, another good question. Until we do have the approval basis, right now, how is the school funded?
Well, as I mentioned, it's funded through a lot of financial support throughout the community. We've run a number of campaigns to bring in more funds. We mentioned the comedy night that we hosted at Calcutta's up at Fox Run. We've had a number of fundraising campaigns reaching out for donations. And we've received a lot of support, some very small donations, some very large donations, and we're very fortunate. We do have the campaign coming up at the end of this month with Jake Norton. For those of you that aren't familiar with Jake Norton, he's someone our head of school, Kendra Rickerby, had met through her program working through an international school. They were in Nepal where she first met him. She was able to kind of reunite with him recently, and he offered to do a program for us, 100 Years of Everest. Jake is someone who's actually summited Everest 4 or 5 times. He's a photographer for the National Geographic magazine. He was very excited to hear what we were doing and is going to be happy to speak to us a little bit more about the expedition itself, if you think about expeditionary learning, there's probably no expedition greater than climbing to the top of the world. And I'm sure he has a lot that he can share with us about
And that's going to be at the end of this month?
It was going to be held as a live stream at the Roundhouse at Jackson Gore. It's also streamed live that evening. And for anybody who would like to attend, they can purchase their tickets at Mary W. Davis Real Estate Office, or they can get online to our website, which is www.esblackriver.org. And from there, you'll find the page that will allow you to purchase tickets. And again, that's a live stream at Jackson Gore, and it can be streamed, if you can't make it, at home on your own personal computer device.
Right, and that's with Jake.
That is with Jake.
Yeah, and so that's a fundraiser, and you had also wine tasting out at Echo Lake Inn, and
last fall, for the second year in a row, we hosted a very successful wine tasting out at Echo Lake Inn.
An auction, I think it was.
And an auction, which was a huge fundraiser for us, very successful, and we're very appreciative of the support of Echo Lake Inn.
Yeah.
And all those that also donated to our auction.
Yeah, and we have a GoFundMe page as well.
We have a live GoFundMe page that is up and running. And interesting enough, attached to that GoFundMe is a video that the students have made. And I'm really proud of the students. They put the video together themselves, pretty much scripted it themselves. They did it because they really want to address the public for their support for our school. They know the school is their future. And basically that's part of their message, is the good things, what the school means to them, and why supporting them means so much to us.
I watched that video. I was very impressed with it. And how important they felt this type of school was important to them, and that how traditional schools didn't work for them. So, Pat, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the head of school, Kendra Rickerby? Dr.
I would introduce her first as Dr. Kendra Rickerby. However, she's not fond of the doctor, so she likes to be known as Kendra, or Miss Kendra, as they call her at school. We were so fortunate to have her come on board. She brings many, many talents. She wears many, many hats. And some days it can make it for a lot for any one person. She is an instructor in the school. She coordinates all the instruction and learning that goes on, which means sometimes she's involved with the contacts that are the online learning that students do. She schedules any facilitators or teachers that we have that come on board for a day or for a week or for several weeks. She also wears the hat as the head of school, which is dealing with all the other issues that go on with the school, especially as we were just going through COVID, the day-to-day COVID efforts that you have to put in schools. She oversaw that. She communicates with the boards. We frequently have meetings, and she just is a strong person that has so much to offer us, and it's been great to be able to work with her. Before we speak any more about her, I do have to say that our board is comprised of currently of 7 members, and they have over the years put in so many hours, so much time, so much effort, so much heart into what we've been doing. And they're a very steady board. They work very hard. They work well together.
How much does the board get paid, Pat?
Well, fortunately, they volunteer their time because they don't get paid, and I'm not sure that they necessarily would want to be paid.
No, they're all volunteers.
They're volunteers, and they're doing it out of a love for education, out of love for the community, because having a school in a community is important. I think it's important to the vibrancy of the community and the future of the community. And it just can't be anything but a benefit to the community. So again, it's time well spent, time well served for sure.
And Kendra, by the way, going back to Kendra, she's also one that is very active in reaching out to the organizations and community members around, whether it be the businesses or Western Playhouse, or she's got a background in education, taught English up in Montpelier, I believe it was.
She was in the Burlington area
Burlington,
as well.
yeah.
She started in Montpelier,
Yeah.
and then moved up to Burlington. She was down in Massachusetts for a short time. And then she actually was a consultant for the state of Vermont Education Department and worked up in Montpelier. So
She's had her hands in lots of different areas,
Yeah.
lots of nice connections. So we're very fortunate, I think, to
It has
have
served her well and served us well for sure.
Yes.
And will, I think, in the future.
Yes. So Pat, what are other ways that people can find out more about the school?
Well, I know that they can check us out through Facebook. They can check out our website, and again, that is www.esblackriver.org. I'm sure if they have an opportunity to speak with some of the students and parents, families that we have, it's another way of learning a little bit more about us. I have mentioned that we have a student video, but I'm going to leave us with an opportunity to view a video that's put together by the parents, basically a testimonial, and they share what the experience for their students and their families has meant to them. It's a great piece. I've had a chance to view it already, and I think it just sheds some interesting light on the Expeditionary School at Black River.
Yes, and we'd like to thank also OVTV for allowing us to do this, and we hope to have other opportunities as well.
We will be returning and hopefully have some guests join us, and again, would invite questions. You reach out to Gary or myself if you have questions that you'd like us to address specifically, because there's certainly a lot more to learn about the Expeditionary School at Black River.
Right. Well, thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Gary.
There are so many opportunities and connections available through ESBR. Coming through homeschool channels, we can kind of seek the individual education that we want for our daughter, through more traditional ways. But as college admissions are changing, all across the country, and the standards for those admissions are changing, then we can be more creative on what we're looking to build for her and how she wants to build her own education. And ESBR, Kendra with ESBR completely gets that. And it was really exciting to move to a very small, kind of isolated place and find such a progressive educational philosophy.
One reason we chose the Expeditionary School at Black River is the small, personal nature of the school. This allows for flexibility to accommodate a variety of learning styles and an opportunity to obtain an eclectic and meaningful education. ESBR gives students space for creativity and time to explore what motivates them. Our student recently began writing as a means of expression. This was not an assigned task, but an outgrowth of something that inspired him. It has blossomed into a passion for words and music, something that we don't feel a traditional school setting would have nurtured. The growth mindset model that is emphasized demonstrates for students that all learning is possible. There's not a specific timetable or a certain set of facts to be mastered. Rather, an appreciation for, I haven't learned that yet, versus you're not capable. We have seen growth in ways that are not always easy to measure, but are very integral to becoming a productive member of society. ESBR considers all aspects of learning, not just the academics. A big shout out to Kendra, head of ESBR. She is always accessible and willing to answer questions or find ways to make things work. We are grateful for the Expeditionary School at Black River. Our student is fully engaged and happy at school.
This school has done so much for Damien. He has changed in terms of like not wanting to be in school, being so shy, not even academically and like any skills that he's learned. It's such a different school. He's progressed so much in terms of wanting to get up in the morning and go and getting ready for school, and he comes home and he tells me all the activities they do and everything he gets involved in, and I'm very pleased with what he's come home to. They have helped me with, the school has helped me with his learning difficulties, and it's just been very great, very personable. I have contact with everybody at the school to tell me how he's doing, to give me progress, to tell me what he can change, how we're working on it. And it is just a great place for Damien to be. I'm really thankful and grateful that this school is open for him. And looking forward for my other child to come and join the school next year.
I'm impressed with the connections that are meaningful, both for Lorian and I hope for the community, because I feel like the school does a really good job of bridging that gap. It's not just about the students, it's also about what the students can give back to the community. And we've seen that a couple of times already, and it gets me really excited because I think that's how education goes forward, both on a personal level, for each individual child, but then also when they build those connections in the community and the community gets something back from them, then they're looking to engage those kids more and more, and everybody becomes more connected, and it's been incredible to watch just in this last few months how much more Lorian feels a part of our local community, a part of the school community. There's a huge range of kids there, everybody's from different backgrounds, and it's really neat that Kendra facilitates this group that can look past those differences and work together on projects, again, with community members like you, to really put something out there that's cohesive and for the community. It's really cool.